we'll talk about all of these things, but over here, is the verse general or not? When I look at it,
Yeah.
where is the specificity? All of you want to say it because you're scared to say it. I understand, but this verse is what? It's general. Are there any exceptions here?
No.
Right, if you look at it superficially. Over here, you guys were a lot, mashallah, no man, that's specific, right? You know, oh yeah, that's general. But you have to understand, just because a verse is being projected as general, even the Prophet _, he said, "Umirtu an uqatil an-nas hatta yaqul la ilaha illallah." I've been ordered to fight the people until they say la ilaha illallah. Every person? Yeah, you have these general statements. But look at the category. Would you guys all forget? Like what happened, right? These are general statements, but they clearly have what? A specific meaning. And how do we know? This is where the exploration comes in. This is where uṣūl comes in, right? We have to understand that even with general rules, we'll always have exceptions, which is why the scholars came up with this category, that you have a category. Sometimes you have these general statements, but those general statements actually apply in very specific situations. So over here, when we said wherever you encounter the pagans, kill them, what is it talking about here? Okay, it's talking about war. There's no doubt about that. Meaning that I should just go and initiate war the first opportunity I get, right? As soon as Muharram is over, I enter Rajab, right? And khalas, get to work. Like that?
There's a trick.
You tell me.
What's the question?
Okay, so the question is, how do I, like you guys are saying that, okay, yeah, you agree with me that there's a specific meaning only because I put the title, right? But how do you know that? Prove to me that that's actually the case and that this doesn't apply generally and we're all sinners right now.
Because it was a context when the Sahaba would come to Rasulullah complaining about what do we do? We are afraid of taking any revenge against them when they attack us, and this this verse was revealed.
Okay, so you're saying that because this is a response, responses aren't meant to apply generally. Meaning that they came with the question and this was the answer to the question, but you're saying the question has a very specific context.
Yeah.
Okay, which is defend yourself. I'm trying to understand the context you're trying to present here.
Yeah, meaning this this verse was revealed to the specific context, to the specific time and place and and the situation.
Yes.
I think he's referring to when it mentions it.
Mm-hmm.
I think at the time people were questioning when if somebody were to attack someone like at a masjid, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Then this verse will
Okay. I'm just listening right now. Yes?
I think it's specific to the situation of Fath Makkah.
Mm-hmm. So Fath Makkah, was there any battles in Fath Makkah?
No.
There's skirmishes.
Not really.
There were skirmishes, right? Because they entered from Makkah from how many sides? From 4, right? So from 4 major areas, they entered them, the 4 major entrances. And out of the 4, fighting was in how many? In 1, and that was just Khalid's battalion, right? It wasn't the other battalions that were there. But saying that, even the Prophet ﷺ, even that situation, what did he say? He says that it has been made for halal for me, a sa'a. This period of time has made halal for me to fight in the haram, because in general, fighting in the sanctuary is what?
Haram.
Is absolutely prohibited. Yes, Maya. Okay, so, and that's what I'm saying. Does that mean it's okay for us to go?
No.
To go in 8 months? It's okay. Like that's when I'm obligated now to fight.
No. That's what I was going to say. The reason specific is because there's a time, there's a.
So the times,
the when,
yeah.
which is the months. There's
Sure.
a where, which is wherever you encounter, and then there's also the second half is the exceptions.
Where are the?
But the comment or the semicolon is like, but if X, Y, and Z.
Sure. What is X, Y, and Z?
All of those things.
So it's saying fight the pagans until what?
Unless
They're no longer pagans, right? Yeah. Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. If they turn to Allah, if they're praying and they're paying zakat, what are they? They're pagans who are doing all these things. Go ahead, Akhi.
The specificity of the verse comes in 2 ways. One, like if this comes in the state of war, and if those pagans are like attacking.
Okay.
And this comes in other
Sure.
ayat.
Sure.
As an example, like do not kill. Do not kill the kafiri if they're not like attacking you. Or
Sure.
give them presents or those.
Okay. So I think you're touching on a very important point here. Was the Islamic state, or was the state that the Prophet ﷺ head of in Medina, were they in a constant state of war? With everybody?
Not with everybody.
Okay, so if they weren't at war with everyone, what were they doing with those people?
Oh,
They had treaties, right? They had alliances, they had treaties, they had agreements, right? So, meaning that war is a tool, just like the state has multiple tools, right? You can do trade embargoes, you can do peace treaties, right? They can be annexed into your state, you can go to war, right? These are all political tools that were available to them. Over here, and this is one of the things that we had talked about before, when we said that whenever you have a command after a prohibition, what does that tell us? You guys are forgetting already, mashallah. Huh?
Makes permissible.
Right? It makes what? It makes it a permission. It doesn't make it a what? Obligation. Not even a what? Not even a recommendation. We said that when you have al-amr, ba'd al-hadr, right? When you have a command after a prohibition, that this is a sign of permission. It is not meant to be a obligation, nor is it meant to be a recommendation. This is right here. When the 4 months are, because it's haram, right? The Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's saying it's haram here, and then he's giving a command. So anytime you have a prohibition and it's followed by a command, it comes into permission. Here, I've been ordered to fight the people until they say La ilaha illallah. Hadith Bukhari and Muslim. Yes, ni'mah. Yes, they did. Yeah. Except what? Which month? They played with one of the months. Because the thing is, they couldn't play with Dhul Qa'dah, Dhul Hijjah, and Muharram. These three they couldn't play with. Why? Because they came one after another. But which one did they actually play with?
Rajab.
Rajab. They played with Rajab. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, he gave importance to Rajab because every time they're like, okay, we'll celebrate Rajab next year. Meaning that we'll skip over Rajab this year. Why? So that we can continue fighting. We can continue fighting. So yes, it was something that was respected before Islam. After Islam, the thing that changed, that was very important, was that Rajab became fixed. It was something that we couldn't just move around the months like whenever we felt like it. And even the prohibition to fight, the prohibition is to initiate fighting, right? It's not a prohibition to defend oneself, right? To defend oneself. So here, the same thing, right? It's the same logic applies in this situation, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "I've been ordered to fight the people until they say La ilaha illallah." Was he constantly fighting with all of his neighbors? No, right? There were some people he had agreements with, some people he had treaties with, some people they wanted to be annexed into the Muslim state. There's a number of political tools that were available, and he himself ﷺ did not utilize war exclusively as a model. There is no prayer after Asr until the sun sets. This is under the category of general with a specific meaning. So what is the specific meaning here?
Sunnah prayers.
Nawafil, right? So extra prayers, sunnah prayers. Absolutely.
Is there some exception of like janasa or tahiyya?
So there are some exceptions that certain scholars they put to this, and why is that? Because they say, well, there's a specific meaning here. It's only specific kinds of prayers that are prohibited at this time. Yani meaning that I'm feeling good, and it's between Asr and Maghrib right now, and I want to do 2 rak'ah shukr. Can I do it at this time? No, right? Because this is nawafil. But what if I missed my sunnah for dhuhr? Right, I can. And again, there is a difference of opinion among scholars on how this is to be applied. But in general, there is a specific meaning here. The problem comes in with what does the specific thing mean? Because he, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he didn't mention it. He didn't mention what the exceptions were. So the scholars, they did ijtihad and they said that, okay, no, the exception means this, or the exception means that. Specific with the general meaning. So this is the opposite. Right, this is the opposite. Over here, it says, "Ya ayyuhan nabi, idha talaqtum an-nisa, fatalliquhunna li'iddatihin wahdhuru al-iddah." That Prophet, when any of you intend to divorce, or when you, this is not a good translation, right? Prophet, when you intend to divorce women, do so at a time their prescribed waiting period can properly start, and calculate the period carefully. So this is talking to who? This is clearly talking to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But who does this apply to? It applies to all Muslims, right? This is not something that is specific to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's actually meant to apply to everyone. Over here, Ya nisa nabi, lastu kan nisa ahadikum. So wives of the prophets, you are not like any other women. If you are truly mindful of God, if you have taqwa, do not speak too softly in case the sick at heart should lust after you, but speak in an appropriate manner. Stay at home and do not flaunt your finery as they used to in the pagan past. So over here, who is being addressed? Wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So over here, but does this apply only to them? No, it doesn't, right? So I don't know why you guys are here. You should be at home. So anyway. Going back to the text, specification is to distinguish part of a whole, meaning that you have a whole, and just to describe certain parts of it, this is specification. It is divided into attached and detached specification, meaning that there are things that are their unique characteristics that can be connected to that specificity, or it can be separate from it, but is still able to decide that thing. There are three different ways to do that. So this is more of the text, and it's just different ways to explain istithna, to explain exceptions. Here it says, وَالْعَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ. So over here, وَالْعَصْرِ by the time or by the midday, all of mankind is in loss. This is general. So is there, up until this point in the verse, are there any exceptions? No, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying all of mankind is in loss. The exception comes immediately after, إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, except those who believe, وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ, and those who do good deeds, وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ, and those who work together upon the truth, and those who encourage each other to be patient. So this is a clear exception to the general rule. Over here, وَإِذْ قُلْنَا لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ اسْجُدُوا لِآدَمَ فَسَجَدُوا إِلَّا إِبْلِيسَ. And when we said to the angels, make sajda, all of them made sajda. Except Iblis. Except Iblis. Now Iblis, is he an angel? No. So how can you have an exception for someone who is not considered part of the whole?
Isn't that like a huge dispute?
Yeah. A condition. There is a difference of opinion. There are some classical scholars who did hold him to be a fallen angel, which is why he's included here. But a lot of the problem is most of that is clearly influenced by Christian theology. Like you would see the Ahl-Kitab influence on a lot of what that is. The next condition can precede that which is made the condition upon it. I think I give some examples here. وَمَثَلَ الَّذِينَ يُنْفِقُونَ أَمْوَالَهُمْ ابْتِغَاءَ مَرْضَاتِ اللَّهِ, to the end of the ayah. But those who spend their wealth in order to gain Allah's approval and as an affirmation of their own faith are like a garden on a hill. Heavy rain falls and it produces double its normal yield. If no heavy rain falls, it will still be watered by the dew. So over here, where's the condition? Oh, there isn't one. Okay, so mardatillah, over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what is He likening His approval to?
Spending money.
Like a garden.
He's likening it to the garden, but what part of the garden in specific? That as long as I do good deeds, then what's going to happen?
Double its normal yield.
The crops will grow.
The crops, why?
Because that's like sort of the parable for like the good deeds.
Sure. So what is the thing that is causing them to grow?
Water.
The water. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's saying that as long as you're doing good deeds, your deeds will be watered, right? And they will grow regardless of how much it is. Even if there's no heavy rain, there's always going to be a source of water. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will water them, and He will put blessing in it in ways that many times we don't even see, in ways that we don't even understand. The next here, if we had sent this Quran down to لو أنزلنا هذا القرآن على جبل, to the end of the ayah, if we had sent this Quran down to a mountain, you would have seen it humbled and split apart in its awe of God. So what is missing here? What is the condition that's missing here, or what is the point that's missing here? What is the point that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is relaying to us? Okay, the power of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why is He using the example of the mountain? Okay, and implicitly, who is Allah comparing the mountain to?
Mankind.
To mankind, ahsant, right? So here, He Azza wa Jal, He's implicitly comparing it to mankind, showing that you should what?
Humble.
You should humble. You should even be more humble. You should be even more awe of this book, because had this come down on the mountain would have been destroyed. So here, this is mutlaq and muqayyad, qualified and unqualified. And here I want to talk about some of the differences, or how to determine the differences between them. So over here I have 4 statements. Which ones are general? Which ones are specific? Which one's qualified? Which one's unqualified? Obviously I did one example of each, so it's not too hard. I want you guys to read these and tell me.
Will they watch the effective, we said?
Huh? So this is now, because this is for educational purposes, nobody will actually be divorced, huh? Okay, good. So you're saying this one is specific? Dave, this one?
General.
This is general. All right. Over here?
Oh wait, the third one? The third one is like one of
Qualified.
Okay, this is qualified. And this is? Unqualified. You guys are right. So what I want you guys to do is, I want you to tell me why it is that you chose what they did, and what is the difference between general and qualified? Sure. Unqualified, qualified. Oh, yeah. No, so I want you. I didn't talk about it. So just based on these, I want you guys to tell me when something is qualified, when something is general, when something is not. So I didn't explain it, so don't don't feel you missed anything.
So when you say my middle wife, you're literally giving a criteria.
Okay, so criteria. Sure. This criteria to what though? Looking at all of these, what am I giving criteria to?
Middle, meaning not.
Huh?
Middle wife.
the subject of the order.
What is the subject here? Wives. Okay, good. You got. That's exactly what it is. So over here, this is unqualified because you specified a group of people, but you haven't specified which one exactly. And the same, now you've specified which one amongst the group of people. This is why it's something that is qualified versus something that is general and versus something that is specific. I'll give some more examples. So general can apply to anyone. Qualified can apply to an individual in a set. Does that make sense? So if I said, yeah,
Subset.
like a subset. So for example, if I said people versus taxi drivers. People is
general.
Taxi drivers?
This is qualified.
Huh? This would be a qualified, or this would be a set of people amongst that larger group.
Qualified general. Like
Qualified, it's a type of general. Like there's generally overlap, right? There's definitely overlap between them, but think of qualified as like a set, right? Think of qualified as a set amongst the larger group. So the qualified and unqualified, these are the different categories of it. I'm going to give examples because the examples will make it much clearer. So basically, the only differences that I want you guys to kind of focus on here is the reasoning and the ruling, okay? And if you understand that there's a reasoning and a ruling, there can only be 4 possibilities. They can either be singular, they can be different. One can be singular, the other one can be different, the other one can be different, the other one can be singular. And I'll give you some examples of this to help clarify what it is that this means. Yes?
What is illa is reasoning?
Yes. So this is the sabab al-hukm. Sabab al-hukm.
Okay, so reasoning is sabab.
Yes, so this is the sabab and this is the hukm. So over here, it says, قُلْ لَا أَجِدُ فِي مَا أُوحِيَ إِلَيْهِ مُحَرَّمٌ عَلَىٰ طَعَامٍ. Oh, I'm sorry. حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةُ وَالدَّمُ وَلَحْمُ الْخِنْزِيرِ. Right? So you are forbidden to eat carrion. Carrion is a dead body, right? Something that either died of natural causes or that was not slaughtered. Blood, pig's meat, any animal over which any name other than Allah's has been invoked. And the second verse, it says that, say, in all that has been revealed to me, I found nothing forbidden for people to eat except for carrion, flowing blood, pig's meat. So what is the shared characteristic between these two? What are the two things that you guys see? So there's a reasoning and there's a ruling.
Eating, like food?
So I'll point it out more specifically, inshallah. So the two things that I want to talk about that I'll focus on is the blood. Right, so blood is mentioned here and blood is mentioned here. What is the difference between them?
Flowing blood.
Right, flowing blood versus?
Blood in general.
Right, just blood in general. So over here, when I talk about flowing blood and versus when I talk about blood in general, how does this help me understand on how to deal with meat?
I asked this question and you said flowing blood means from your vessels, from animals' vessels.
Sure.
That is blood. But if blood is just among muscles, in tissue, that is halal to eat.
Okay.
That is not considered as haram.
Okay, good.
Blood.
Anyone else? So the flowing blood is the blood that is spilled at the time of slaughter. Does that remove 100% of the blood?
No.
No, it doesn't. Whatever remains after the blood is spilled, that blood is halal to consume. Why?
Otherwise, like blood's like everywhere.
Well, it's not just difficult. So the thing is, how do the Jews do it? Because for the Jews, all blood is impermissible. So what do?
They dry the...
And they salt the meat. They salt the meat. They actually have to make it sit in salt to actually drain the entirety of the blood from the animal. So over here, it is possible, right? You know what I mean? It's not something that's impossible. Is it annoying? Yeah, for sure. You know what I mean? But it is something that is definitely possible. Saying that, how is it that a person, how come a person can't come to you and respond and be like, no, Allah made dam haram. Allah made blood haram, khalas. How come that is it's not good enough?
There's another verse.
Because there's another verse. So when we have two verses like this, we can use one verse to what? Not nasq, to qualify the other one. Right, to qualify the other one. Right, so now you have two similar verses that are talking about two similar things, right? Both of them are talking about blood. And we know that blood is haram, right? It's shared in both of these verses, and one is qualifying the other one. Over here, we have two verses. يُوصِيكُمُ اللَّهُ فِي أَوْلَادِكُمْ over here, and then فَإِنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدٍ, and this is the same verse, that concerning your children, Allah commands you that a son should have equivalent shares of two daughters. Meaning that if I have a son and two daughters, how are the shares to be split?
50%.
50?
50 to your daughters.
All right, 50, 25, 25. Yes. But over here, it says, if he leaves no children and his parents are his sole heirs, his mother has a third. 1/3 is more or less than 25%. It is more. It is more. So over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us a qualification that there are specific situations where this does not apply. Differing reasons and rulings. So over here, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ. And then here, وَالسَّارِقُ وَالسَّارِقَةُ فَاقْطَعُوا أَيْدِيَهُمَا. That you who believe, when you are about to pray, wash your faces and your hands up to your elbows, and cut off the hands of the thieves. So there are different reasons here, but the ruling and rulings, right? So the reasoning is different and the ruling is different. What is the reasoning in the first verse? Wudu. Wudu. But what is the thing that both verses share? What are they talking about? They're talking about the hands. But when it comes to wudu, the hand, where does the hand go to? Where does it extend to?
Elbow.
It extends to the elbow. But when it comes to the thief, how far does it go? To the shoulder. No. It goes to the wrist. Right? It goes to the wrist. And why is that? How can I define them differently? Yes, Os.
Didn't Umar suspended?
He suspended. So it doesn't mean here. There are many things that you will find exceptions for. You will always find. So whenever we talk about rulings, like for example, what is the ruling on eating pig's meat?
Haram.
It's haram. Are there exceptional cases like where a person can consume it?
Yes.
Yeah. So over here, but am I going to stress on the exceptions, or am I going to talk about the general norm? So cut off the hands of the thieves. So basically, the way the hands are defined here, why are they defined differently? Because the reasoning is different. Therefore, the ruling is going to be different. Is this right? No, this should have been this way, right? Sorry. You have to make wudu up to your elbow, okay? Singular reasoning, differing rulings. Are you guys following? No, some of. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. No? You good? Okay. So over here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا إِذَا قُمْتُمْ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاغْسِلُوا وُجُوهَكُمْ وَأَيْدِيَكُمْ إِلَى الْمَرَافِقِ and then the same thing, فَامْسَحُوا بِوُجُوهِكُمْ وَأَيْدِيكُمْ. That you who believe, when you are about to pray, wash your faces and your hands up to the elbows. Then, and in the same verse it goes on, it says, then take some clean sand and wipe your face and hands with it. So the reasoning is right, it's tahara, right? The reasoning is the same. So over here, purification. This is the reasoning for it. The ruling, how's the ruling different? Right? And it's the same thing about defining it again. How do I define hand? How do I define hand? Even though the reasoning will be the same. So why? Because one is wudu and the other one is tayammum.
So tayammum, you just have to wash the base of your hand?
Yeah, so tayammum, that's it.
Okay.
That's tayammum. It doesn't replace wudu, okay? If there's water. So have a bunch of cheaters for Maghrib. So over here, you have differing reasons and singular ruling. This one, there's the most khilaf over. Yes, Fazia. Alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh, the rock? So you do have some khilaf on where you can get the dust from. I don't know, it's kind of far-fetched for me. I don't know, but whatever. You know, you do what you got to do. It's ibadah. Some people like playing it safe, and they're saying that it has to be a surface that actually collects dust. And sometimes in hospitals, they're extremely sterile environments, right? Extremely sterile environments. They have like dust filters and things like that, so that there's no dust that collects. And they put it a condition that there has to be something that collects dust. Have you guys seen like the dirt of Medina? Also, like they have little boxes where you like. No? Okay, never mind. Yeah.
It's a sponge, right?
No, it's not a sponge. They actually have a box. Like it's a wooden box and it has dirt inside it so that people can make tayammum. I mean, whatever. Like, whatever you need, man. Whatever you need. The earth. Yeah, so, you know, touching it, like it has to be earth or it has to be whatever. I mean, may Allah bless them. So over here you have, there are 3 verses. Over here there are 3 verses. The first one is about, I think is about dhihar. The second one is about laghul fil ayman, and the last one is about what is this called? Involuntary manslaughter. It's probably the best translation. It's qatl khata. So it's like a mistaken, like accidental death. Yeah.
It's just called manslaughter.
No, but there's voluntary also.
Yeah. Involuntary.
No, but there's also voluntary. That's the problem.
Isn't it murder?
It's premeditated versus like unintentional.
No, that's so.
And it's called.
So do you have first, second? Oh, we have a lawyer, right? So correct me if I'm wrong, Fazia. You have first degree, you have second degree, and you have manslaughter, and those are 2 levels, right? There you have voluntary and involuntary. First degree is premeditated, like you actually plan to go and kill this person. Second degree is that your intention wasn't to kill the person, it was to hurt him, right? Like, you know, punched him and like bam, he died. Involuntary manslaughter is a mistake, right? You just made a mistake. You were driving, the guy just like was in the road and bam, you hit him and he died. Voluntary is like, they call it crimes of passion. I don't know what it means myself. Like, am I right?
It varies state by state.
Okay.
That's the basis.
Is that right? Good. Yeah. So the first degree, second degree, and involuntary manslaughter, these you'll actually find in our fiqh books. This one you won't, because this one would be connected with the second, right? So you have amd, shubha amd, and khata. That's it, right? So these are the 3 types that you have in Islamic law. Yeah, sure. So you have amd, which is purposeful. You have shubha amd, like it's.
Did something that's it.
Yeah, no.
Like accident?
It's like.
It's like?
Yeah. So like shubha, it means like it's likened to intentional.
Oh.
So it's similar.
Yeah. So no, because here, one you intended to kill him, and one you intended to hurt him.
So it's
Yeah.
so you round up.
Yeah. So this voluntary manslaughter category, it would actually be in this, because you still intended to hurt the person, right? And then you have khata, qatl khata, where it was just a complete mistake. Like
Voluntary is also like you could have anticipated it.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's too, it's too vague, and which is why I feel it would be connected to the second category Islamic.
Death in traffic considered in Islamic law as?
So that's actually very interesting. The modern application for it, which I don't think is a bad way of doing it. If I'm driving and I hit somebody like on the road and they die, this is considered a khata, right? This is considered mistaken. But if I'm going over the speed limit, then it's shubha amd.
Yeah.
Even if there's no intention at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? I thought it was pretty, you know what I mean? It's a pretty nice, modern take on it. Follow the speed limit, yeah. Don't be, or better yet, don't be hitting people, man. Yeah. Yes.
There was a fatal car crash the other night.
Yeah.
So the police was there measuring everything because that's a death. So it depends on the speed of the person.
Yeah.
All of that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that you have to take in consideration, but yeah, for sure. Yes.
What if someone's being like an idiot? Like, what if you're like driving and like someone
like recklessly?
Like someone just like walks out into the road, is like crossing, like not in the crosswalk.
But there's still blood money. There's still a blood fine. So the thing is, like, again, if I hit somebody on a crosswalk, I would be at fault.
Even if it's the red.
Even if they want to commit suicide?
Yeah. What? No, but here, let me put it to you this way, Uthman. It will. Huh? No, I'm saying, but it will never be a purposeful murder. It'll never be qatl amd.
Where you actually go.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, but I shouldn't get no blame for it.
But even with khata, you're blamed. Yeah. Even with khata, what is the punishment for khata? Do you get for a mistaken? Right? No, not just diya. Diya musallamatun ila ahliha. I have to pay blood money and I have to fast. And this is in when? This is the lowest. This isn't mistaken. Yani if I'm driving, Habibi, I'm driving my car and I'm eating an apple and I throw the core outside, it hits somebody's head. Well, katabu al-ajr. No, it's his time to die, right? Like it's just the time he died just happened to coincide with the striking of the apple core. I have to pay.
So it's my fault.
All I had to do was like wait a few seconds and throw it. You know what I mean?
No, I get it.
Yeah.
But look, you're going at the regular speed. This individual has written a letter.
Yeah.
Bye not.
Yeah.
Throws himself.
Yeah.
You still get the blame. You pay.
Oh, in that situation, Wallahu alam, akhi. So that's a very unique situation. The only thing I can see an exception for is what you're talking about is somebody throws himself in front of a train. Why?
The train doesn't
like train can't stop, right? You know what I mean? Like it takes like a mile for the train to stop.
So is the car.
Yeah.
But yeah, like,
no.
That's what I'm trying to
You got to be more, you know what I mean, vigilant.
But in the scenario,
Yeah.
man said the person actually wrote a letter.
No, he wrote a letter and like he was waiting for you to come and hit him. He's like, when Uthman drives by, it's like I've been following his routine. No, but it's still khata because you took a life. You took a life. There has to be accountability. So even if a person had full due intention to kill themselves, because he's involving someone else, it's a problem. It's an issue. There's too many variables, right? There's a lot of variables. Like you could swerve, you can move out of the way. Like you could paralyze him from like the neck down, and like he could survive. In those situations, there are more things that are taken into account because even the diya, when there's blood money, who has to pay the blood money? The family, the aqila, right? The aqila pays, the family pays, not the individual, which brings up an interesting conversation about like, is insurance okay and stuff. But that's for another time. Khalas, we'll stop here, inshallah. But over here, the things I wanted you guys to focus on is here. If I do dhihar is basically saying I promise I will never be intimate with my wife again, and I'm not going to divorce her. Oh, that's what dhihar is. No, I'm saying, but why does a person do that?
They just want to keep
just spite, right? It's a way to spite and it's a way to punish. So the punishment actually falls back on him, right? He has to pay. Over here, this is for oaths, right? So if I make a false oath, at that point I have to free a slave, okay? And the last one, if you kill somebody by mistake, you also have to. But over here, what does it say? One Muslim slave. So now that I have these three statements, one is qualified, two are unqualified. In these situations, do I free a Muslim or a non-Muslim slave?
I don't think does it not matter.
No.
Muslim. Meaning that just like you guys, because you guys didn't say anything. So you have to free a slave. This is the thing that's shared, right? So they have different reasons, but they have a singular ruling. So you guys were okay with it when it came to, where was I talking about?
Blood, flowing blood.
The blood, yeah. So you guys were like, no, it's cool over here. Over here, it's talking about flowing blood. It's okay for me to apply flowing blood into that situation. Yes?
What does it mean to free a slave in modern day?
There's no way to do it. Unless you go to like some country where they actually have slaves. No, but there's no modern application. So the thing is, I understand what some people try to imply from this. Like, so people in jail, they try to use that example. Women who are in sex, sex trades, right? Like they're stuck in it. So like, does that actually apply? No, because the person isn't actually owned. You know what I mean? Like, so there's a difference between that and what's going on. Is the person being oppressed? Is the person being taken advantage of? Yeah, absolutely. But you can't put that. You can't, just because of the oppression, you can't just dump them into the same category. Yes.
The ruling does not apply in our.
No, there's no way to do it. I mean, and if there is, we can talk about it after class. So. No, I'm just kidding. But there's no modern application. There's no modern application. There's no modern application to this at all. Yeah, I don't know of any place where like slavery as a trade is still practiced. Again, are there manifestations of oppression that parallel slavery? Yes, there are. But they're not slave. You can't call them slavery, right? You can't call them slavery. Yeah. Huh?
Like, can scholars, as an example, give another way instead of freeing a slave, as an example, say you have
substitution and substitution.
Yeah. No, all of these have substitutions. Every single one. Every single one. Right? Like some of them have fasting, some of them feeding miskeen. Like there are different penalties that you can pay. There are different penalties you can pay. But I mean, going to this, should be Muslim or not? And there is a difference of opinion. There honestly is a difference of opinion on this. So the Hanafis and Malikis, they say no. For those first two situations, they say it can be any slave. The Hanbalis and the Shāfis, they say no. You actually have to, you have to take the mutlaq al-muqayyid. You have to. Like you have to in that situation. Therefore, it would be yes. There's another case study, which you know what? We'll do that next time. We'll do that one next time. Because that one's good. That one's good, and I like that. And I want to spend a little bit of time on it. But I will, inshallah, we'll continue this next week. Bi'idhnillah. Wallahu a'lam wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqi nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sallam. Do we have any questions before we end? Related or unrelated?
Yeah. It's about the imitation thing.
Sure.
Like whoever imitates people among them. Like, what is that? Like, because I've seen that like broadly applied to like
sure.
Anything.
So the thing is, one of the scholars who kind of broadened the category was Ibn Taymiyyah. Before him, everybody said like tashbih had to do with religious customs only.
Okay, that's it.
Right? But he broadened it to customs in general. And you have to understand, Ibn Taymiyyah, who was the biggest threat at his time? You guys know?
Wasn't it?
It was the Mongols. Like the Mongols were pillaging, destroying. You know what I mean? They were like coming in. They were drunkards. Like they were. How do you think his attitude toward non-Muslims was?
Pretty bad.
Right, pretty bad. Like he had a really negative worldview of like non-Muslims. So he was like, yeah, even imitating them and their customs. There's a spiritual punishment for it.
Okay.
But can I, as a non-Irish man, or can I wear a kilt? Is that something that there's a spiritual accountability for? No, I think it's far-fetched. Yes.
Also the case after colonization of certain countries.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah.
They hate this.
And it's only like it's an extension on the Taymiyyah thought. So you do have like different institutions who are just like super anti-colonial, and they're like, pants are haram and ties are haram. You know what I mean? It's like, all right, bro. Like, all right, bro. It's okay. Yes.
Like I had a client the other day, an immigration client, and I said, "What's the proof that you guys are married? I need some photographs, blah blah blah." And they said, "We don't believe in photographs."
But they exist. How can you not believe in them?
Well, they don't have to believe. They just show it.
No, is there a thing where?
Yeah. So what people do is they'll take analogy based on the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, saying that he didn't allow images, right? So he didn't allow pictures. Now, does that fall under the umbrella category of photographs or not? That's another discussion. So some people feel it does. I think it's very far-fetched.
Yeah.
I mean, may Allah make it easy. Class, I'll see you guys for the Tazkiyah class. Inshallah, we'll start in about 10 minutes or so. Wallahu a'lam, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam, nabiyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sallam. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.
The imitation thing is like used up with like so much stuff.
Yeah, man.